Welcome to the podcast, Miss Olympia Missy Truscott. How are you?
Hi, Rachel. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Well, I'm super excited to have you on. It's funny, I was thinking back to the first time I met you, because I think, we've met a couple times. It was do you remember when you came to Seattle? I don't know if you were living there yet, but there was that like big fitness, kind of like guest performance of like all of the fitness competitors. Like
Yes,
there was Michelle Mayberry, Tangi, like
yes.
a bunch of OGs all did like one big fitness performance as like a homage to fitness. Do you remember that?
Yes, that was like I think when I first moved to Seattle with my
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah.
So that, gosh, like 6 years ago maybe?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it was at least 2019, maybe around that time frame or something like that. Cause I
Yeah.
started working for those shows for the Ribbicks and the Craigs back in 2018. So yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
around that time.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I
And
seen you. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it's so funny because like that's where we first met, right? And you were on like your fitness journey, and now I just saw you place third back in the summertime, and I'm like, hell yeah, like let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, it's been a really cool journey because I got my pro card in 2018
Yeah.
and that was just like such a young and naive pro at that time, and I didn't do great the first couple of years, and I definitely could have just allowed that to stop me from keeping going. But it's just been a journey of like self-discovery and figuring out like what I need specifically to like actually succeed, and that's what I got this last year, is getting third next to Jessica and D, like two Olympians. It was
Oh yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
So
that was wild. I was super proud of you, and it was really
thank
cool
you.
to see, just seeing like, where you got your pro card in 18 and how you just like evolved since then, and just brought what one thing I really noticed about you is you really brought the conditioning in. So that was cool to see.
Yeah, especially when you're like, I mean, I think we all have that little bit of just doubt and maybe body dysmorphia of like, I'm never going to be big enough. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I thought of. Like, I won't be the biggest on stage, obviously, but if I can be like as close to the most conditioned as possible, then I can like really make up for that size. But what was cool is seeing that, like, yes, the conditioning really made a big difference, but also like I was a lot bigger than I thought I was.
Right.
And
Yeah.
just and I'm sure you've seen this too in figure and fitness even, but especially in figure, is that like, yes, they're big, but like they're not as big as we think they are. Once
No.
you're like next to them, it's
Right.
like easy to get into your head about that, and then you realize like, oh, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, and one of
Obviously.
the biggest things too that I took from Sandy Williamson, actually, this is when I first started like placing in like the top 5 and stuff at Olympia for fitness. She had said to me, don't be chasing other people. You have to focus on what you look like.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm actually taking over into the figure division,
Yeah.
is just not comparing myself to anyone else. Of course, you have Jessica Reyes, who is on like the bigger side of figure, right, for
Mhm.
physique wise. And then you have the 8-time champ Sid Gillian, who was, more on the smaller side.
Mhm.
And then Lola is that mix of both of them.
Yeah,
So it's
definitely.
very interesting to see. And I do feel like I kind of match up well with Lola. So
Mhm.
it'll be very exciting to see where things go this year. Of course, I have to qualify. So there's that.
Yeah, and I've been excited to talk to you about this switch because like obviously it caused a big stir, like, oh my god, Missy's switching and everything. So like I'm sure there's like more obvious reasons why you switched, that like, wanting to not be as prone to injury with fitness, but what would you say has like been the big driving force behind you deciding to go that direction?
So one of the big reasons on one of the big reasons why I switched was because, Like in 2023, I had the serious knee injury at the Olympia. So that was very traumatic in and of itself to not be able to finish the competition out and get the DNF when I like destroyed the physique round. And I knew the routine was going to be the best routine I have ever done. At some point, I will post it, like my practice runs on my Instagram, but I haven't yet. So
Why
that
haven't you posted it yet?
I'm the type of person where like I try not to like live in the past. I
Yeah.
want to just keep moving forward. Um, so there's like that little part of me that's like, oh man, I've already like done that routine to the best of my ability, which I did this year. Like I had to really modify a lot of the skills because I was still running at like 60% with
Mhm.
my surgery leg. So um, I just didn't really feel comfortable like posting it because it's a big downgrade from what I presented this year. um, but with the big reason on why I wanted to switch from fitness to figure is because I've done everything in fitness. I've been a pro since 2012. I've It's taken decades to climb that ladder. I've won 2 Arnold Classic titles and 3 Olympia titles in fitness. And I just, I won the Olympia this year at like 70%. So what else do I have to prove? I have nothing else to prove to myself. Sure, I could go and win another 5 Olympias in fitness, but it's like, well, I'm not really challenging myself anymore. I
Mhm.
was destroying them all in the physique round. The routine, I believe in my heart, I could still be like the top, especially how good my knee is feeling lately. Uh, but it's I'm ready to move on. It's that time. I'm still young, uh,
Yeah.
so I need something new. I need like a new challenge.
Yeah. Did you at all ever think about like, all right, I'm done with this challenge, like I'm not being challenged anymore, maybe it's time to just retire completely? Did you ever have that thought?
No, it was always so when I first started competing, I would cross over between fitness and figure.
Yeah.
So I competed up in Canada. That's
Mhm.
where I went through the pro ranks. And back in, the early 2000s, there was no double pro card wins. There was no class wins. It was literally the overall.
Yeah.
So I was competing in figure and fitness. And then after talking to a lot of the judges in Canada, they were like, we really want to push you into fitness, like this is where you're going to thrive most. So then when I went on to nationals, you can't cross over there, and I was qualified for figure as well. And I was 21,
Mhm.
turning 22 at that time. And they were like, stick with fitness, like you got this. And then that year I won my pro card in fitness.
Yeah. And then you competed in pro figure 1 year. I forget which year it was. Was it 2019
Um,
or maybe it was
it,
earlier than that?
yeah, it was 18, and then I did one show in 19.
Yeah. Did was that what Tell me about that. Like when you had already been competing in fitness and
Yeah,
then deciding to do that. Tell me about how you were at that point and how you made those decisions then versus now with this switch.
yeah. So in 2018, I well, a year earlier, I met my husband. I moved to Seattle. I started working at a hospital as a phlebotomist. I was coaching gymnastics as like a part-time job as opposed to just the hospital. And then I was training. And I had done the Arnold that year in fitness, and I believe I placed fourth.
Mhm.
And I started to get upset with myself because I knew that I was one of the top gals, and I was not getting rewarded in the like awards part. I guess I wasn't breaking that top spot up into the top three. And I was like, you know what? I'm putting so much time and effort into fitness. why don't I try to do a figure show and see if I can, qualify this year for the figure Olympia. And that was in 18. So I ended up doing a couple figure shows. I placed my first figure show, I placed eighth at the border states, and that was stacked. There was like Wendy Fortino, another girl, Lindsay, I can't forget her last name, but she's really good, blonde girl. So I thought, okay, I top 10, like, let's keep going. Let's see what I can do. And my husband was on board. He thought like, this is great. You're having fun doing this. Let's keep going. So I did the Kentucky Muscle and placed third. And I'm like, whoa, okay, this is good. It was a big show. There was like 40 girls in it. And I thought, okay, let's like reassess. So now we're going into like Olympia time of 2018. And my husband, no, sorry, we had done 18 Olympia and then we were going into 2019. So as we're going into 19, my husband was like, I think that you should like set a goal for yourself. And he's like, I think you should go all in with fitness. Resign from your hospital job. Obviously, like I was financially stable. We were, so I could do something like that. He was like, resign from your job at the hospital and put the next 5 years into fitness. And if you can win the Fitness Olympia in 5 years, this has all been worth it. And I'm like, okay, like, let's do that. So that year, 2020, when I resigned, COVID year from the hospital, I ended up winning my first Olympia title. And then I thought, okay, I need to stay in fitness. Like this is my home. Figure can be on the back burner now. And I'll just really focus on reigning this title for the next however long I want to do it. But with my injury in 2023, to me, it wasn't worth it anymore. The amount of rehab that I had to do on my knee, just the mental trauma, and of course the finances too, like that rehab surgery, it's not cheap. So I just thought, like, let's move on to something else. Let's go for a new challenge because I've done it now.
Yeah, you've done it. And yeah, I agree. I think not a lot of people really think about just the overall cost of an injury like that, like the financial cost, of course, but also just like the mental as well. And just like how much time you then have to spend not only rehabbing, but then the thought that comes from like, once you're better, there's always going to be that thought in the back of your head of like, this could happen again. And that, I'm sure, with especially fitness and like the movements you have to do and the tricks and just like everything, like so much of that is mental in terms of like, are you able to actually perform it? And then at the speed that you need to perform it in order and everything, like that would be really heartbreaking just knowing that could happen again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even just like walking around, like you feel like your knee kind of like buckle and you're like, whoa, okay, like I
Every
gotta
little movement is like, oh shit, what just happened?
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely took its toll on me for a while there, but I feel like I'm out of it now and like slowly going up, but there's still, some days where I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I gotta go easy. But
Yeah. Was there like any kind of weight lifted feeling when you finally announced that you were switching to figure?
oh yeah, yeah. So like my husband and I have talked about it on my YouTube channel, but
Yeah.
I was like a shell of myself this prep going into this Olympia because I put so much pressure on myself to not to like win. I wasn't worried about winning. I just wanted to be able to walk off stage and not be carried off. Like
Yeah.
I just wanted to finish that routine. I put a lot of effort and time into it, like 2 years, right? Because I didn't get to finish it. So there was that. Um, but sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You're good. We were talking about the weight lifted when you announced publicly
Yeah.
that you guys were doing it.
Yeah. So after the Olympia, I waited like, I want to say a month. I waited till like the new year to actually announce it just because, I still like in my heart, I knew I was done with fitness,
Yeah.
but I just kind of wanted to, make sure we were on the right path for that. And yeah, I felt like 1,000 pounds had lifted off of me. Even after I finished my fitness routine, like I landed on the ground. It was one of my end skills. I can go back and watch that video and you just see me like, like it's like, like my soul left my
That
body
was
and
the
I'm like,
last time I'll ever have to do that.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I got up. I was like, hell yeah, I'm done with this.
That's awesome. What's been some surprising feedback you've received about the switch from just the outside world?
Yeah. So it's been so positive. Like everyone has been so cool about it. And like you, Rachel, I've had a lot of like figure girls reach out and be like, gosh, we're so happy you're coming over to our division. And I really like the sportsmanship, of the figure gals. I think everyone's very mature and we're all just like doing it for ourselves, and we all have such different physiques that you can't even really compare yourself to other people. Like, sure, it's a subjective sport, but we all look so different and we bring such a different package that I don't think there's that like competitiveness that there is in the fitness division, which
Really?
I think that there's a part of me that was like, man, I'm getting too old for this shit. I just want to be happy and train. I love to diet. I loved fitness so much. It was like my baby.
Mm-hmm.
But then it just got to a point where it's like, okay, this is not fun anymore. Like I
Yeah.
am not enjoying myself. And my husband did ask me one time, when are you going to be done with like fitness, like the actual fitness division? And I
When did he
told
ask you that?
him, I would probably say like in 2022.
Okay. After you had already won an Olympia or two by that point, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 Olympias there. Um, yeah, and that's when it kinda, like, started with, like the big rivalries and stuff between,
Mm-hmm.
like, Whitney and I. And I told him, like, as soon as I'm not having any fun anymore, I'll be done with it because I invest so much time, a lot of my finances for, like, the fitness, costumes and all of that because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just buying stuff off Amazon and going on stage and like, "Yeah!" Like,
No, it's
no.
a real situation. Like it's a whole thing. Like your costumes are just like out of this world. Like
Thank
there's
you.
you, and then there's like everybody else. No shade to them. It's just like you're on a
Right.
different level.
Right. And it's like a performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, these spectators, fans, followers, friends are coming to these events to support you. And it's like, it reminds me of like WWE, like the wrestling.
Yeah.
You want to perform for these people. So, like, I'm putting thousands of dollars into these fitness outfits so that it looks like appealing to the audience when the lights are hitting like the bling. It's all like, flashy and everything. So that's like little things that I would do to put myself above everyone else because it's like eye
Every
catching
little
and
thing matters. Yeah.
yeah.
So how do you foresee yourself doing that now, transferring into the figure division where you have less opportunity to showcase what you have? You only have the one thing. You only have your two-piece suit and your quarter turns and your like 60-second, if even, routine.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going from like a 2-minute fitness routine to like a 45-second and faster,
Mm-hmm.
depending on Olympia.
Depending on the show too, because like sometimes shows will be running not the smoothest, or they'll just decide last minute, like, hey, you're not doing a walk to the back and then walk forward. You're actually just going to walk diagonally. And then everyone in the line is just like, what the fuck? I have
Yeah.
practiced this. And like that happened to me too. Like, I think it was Texas State where I got third, was
Yep.
like, they told us as we were lining up, like, hey, just so you know, don't walk to the back, like walk directly to the front. And so
Yeah.
we were like, oh shit, okay. I guess we just have to change it, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, that's actually how I practice now. I just
Yeah.
walk to the box because
You just
that's where
never know. Yeah.
Yeah, and the better lighting, like
Hmm.
center stage or wherever that box is. So, but yeah, how I believe I'll stand out in the figure round is just my assets, like shoulders, back, legs. I mean, tiny waist.
Yeah.
Um,
You have insane ratios, so I don't think you'll have a problem. What are some of the things you're working on to like really be dial that figure physique in? Because it's kind of, you obviously have great genetics, you have a great work ethic, you've built already, you have a figure physique. It's not like you have to go super far to get that. But what are some things you're fine tuning to like really be competitive now in figure?
Thank you. So with making the switch to the figure division, I don't have to focus on like fitness skills or fitness conditioning, stretching, any of that stuff. And honestly, Rachel, that would take like at least 2 hours of my day every
Yeah.
day. Um, Not including like the actual fitness routine practices like
Hmm.
at the gym. So not having to do that anymore is amazing.
Yeah.
Not having to do off-season cardio, because I would do that with fitness because I would try to stay leaner because I had to keep practicing handstands and everything.
Right.
So I'm not doing cardio right now. Food is extremely high. My training, I've actually pulled back on my training, but I'm more like strategic with it. I do like upper lower days. So I train 4 days a week, and that's working really well for me. I'm seeing like a lot of progress. Um, my coach keeps like a really close eye on me, so I check in like every 3 days with him.
And who are
Um,
you with again? Are you with Shelby still?
yeah,
Yeah.
Shelby Starnes. Yeah.
And you've
So
been with him for a few years, right?
yeah, since John Meadows passed,
Yeah.
so 20 2021 ish.
Yeah.
I've been with Shelby. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that. How has that been, just like learning to trust a new coach, especially after like, the passing of John? I know that that hit you really hard because you were he was your coach for a long time, and he
Yeah.
was just a great influence in the industry in general. How has
Mhm.
that been, just working towards the relationship you have now with Shelby?
Yeah, so Shelby's awesome. He's like my second set of eyes, I'm confident in, you know, I'm confident that Shelby brings me in at my best every time. Um he listens to me when I like if I give like a pushback on something or if I have questions. But for the most part, like whatever he says, I do. Like I'm a coachable athlete. I People will ask me like on like my YouTube or Instagram, like, oh, how many calories are you eating? And do what are your macros? And as a coach, like you could ask me like any client, like what are they on? And I can pull it up and give you exactly what they're eating. But for myself, like
Just
I'm
kind of follow
paying
the
Shelby
plan,
to
don't
do
worry
that.
about it.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I just eat it. I'm eating like whatever. He says 250 grams of jasmine rice. Okay, I'm eating that. Like I just yeah, I try not to um like give too much like opinion or too much of my like coaching into myself because I just want him to take care of it.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of, especially newer competitors or even just like older competitors who haven't had like a good coach, they deal with, in terms of just like they'll kind of want to coach themselves while also being coached because they
Yeah.
have whatever it is, like a fear, a lack of confidence, a lack, a doubtfulness over their coach. And at some point, every athlete, in order to reach the next level, they have to like listen more. They have
Right.
to like be led instead of just leading themselves. At what point in your career as an athlete did you feel like that clicked for you, in terms of like not asking as many questions, not because you couldn't, but because you didn't need to?
Yeah. And honestly, a lot of the questions that you would like ask your coach, you could just Google. Like it's real simple. It's real bodybuilding is not rocket science.
Yeah.
We follow the plan. It lower the calories if you want to lose weight, you know. Yeah, it's not rocket science. So I think when, like, I've always been super coachable because I grew up as a gymnast.
Right.
I was 6 when my parents put me in gymnastics. So I've always had that respect for coaches, and like mentors. I never really push back unless it's, unless it's something like very, unethical or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Then I'm going to ask questions and stuff. But no, I feel like that's one of like my strongest assets is that if someone is my coach, I listen. And I think that's why I am as successful as I am, because I've had some really strong core people in my life bring me to that next level. And one of them actually is John Meadows. Um, when I won my first Arnold and Olympia title, he was my coach for both of them.
Yeah.
So it was that's really cool too to me, that I was his first Arnold and Olympia winners.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that really means a lot. And he did really excel my career this way and kind of introduced me to Shelby too in some senses, because John used to show Shelby my photos.
Okay. And
And he
ask
would
for
tell
kind of
me,
like another set of eyes and stuff like that.
yeah, yep. So, and John did tell me that. So it almost seemed like it just fit that
Yeah.
Shelby would be the next one in line to like take over me when John had passed. But it's funny because my husband actually worked with Shelby like back in the early 2000s, and
Isn't that funny
like,
how things just like flow together that way? And like you didn't even know him at that point, right?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
no,
So like, have you ever heard of the invisible string theory?
no,
It's like basically a theory that like, the people and the things that you're meant to do, like you're connected to them in by this string that's like you can't see it, but it's like it's winding all over like the timelines and the world and everything. And so like Matt was using Shelby back then before you guys even knew each other. And then,
yeah,
you met, and then you also were semi like connected to Shelby in that way. And then, you also were meeting Matt at the time that you were, I think you said 2012 or something, or 2018
18, yeah,
is when you moved with him. So
yeah,
yeah, it's like just one of those things, like you were somehow connected and like getting like closer and closer just as the years
yeah.
went by.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I've never heard that theory before, but that actually makes a lot of sense.
Right? Yeah, me and my boyfriend Austin have like similar little similarities. Like we're both coached by the same person now, Mark Tominick. And back when I was the last time we both competed had been 2021, and at that time he was applying to be a coach for Mark because he was like coaching kind of on the side of his like firefighting job at the time. And
Okay.
then so he was coaching, he wanted to coach with Mark. He didn't accept him, and like he didn't get the job. But in 2021 was when I was actually starting to follow Mark and decided I want to work with him as an athlete. And that's when I hired him at the end of that year. And then me and Austin didn't actually meet until 2023. But then we
Oh,
like found that connection, and now he's working with him as a client or as an athlete, and it's just all come full circle in that way.
wow.
Yeah.
What is it called again?
The
Invisible.
invisible string theory. You should look it up. It's interesting. I bet
I'm
you
going
guys
to.
would have fun just like thinking about all of those little like connections and stuff that lead us to the places we go.
That would be like a cool like Valentine's Day talk, like
Yeah,
to
definitely.
bring up at like dinner or something.
Yeah, because like in turn, I don't know what your past like in terms of relationships were before him, but like from the outside, it really looks like you guys have just this like really important and beautiful connection where like your partners in like everything in life, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people they just get married because it's convenient, or they just get married because like, oh, they like me, I better like snap this person up.
Right.
And that's a totally different sensation than having like a true life partner.
Right. Like a best friend,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet?
We actually met like online.
Yeah. Did he DM
Um,
you or did you DM him?
no, so this was like, gosh, back in 2014,
Okay.
maybe. So I was in a another marriage. He was also in another marriage. We just followed each other on Instagram because we both had wiener dogs and didn't actually even like talk to each other in the DMs until like years later. Like we had both divorced, didn't even really like know each other.
Mhm.
But I would say around like 2017, we started like talking um, on like Instagram and
Yeah.
everything. And then we were just like inseparable ever since.
What do you think like sparked that inseparable feeling for you guys specifically?
Just so one of the biggest things I love about Matt is he's so driven in whatever he does, whether it's I don't know, I'll give like a silly example. Like if he knows he's doing cardio in the morning, he's preparing the night before. He's just he's very regimented, which I like.
Hmm.
And as like a bodybuilder, we are on like these schedules all the time.
Yeah.
But there's so many like amazing attributes to him. He's so kind to everyone he meets. Um, that's one of the biggest things I love about Matt. He'll give anyone like his time or just he's just so uplifting.
Yeah.
And I'm truly blessed to be his wife. It's been such an incredible journey to share our lives together. Um, we actually we're getting a wiener dog puppy in like a couple weeks here,
Oh my
so
gosh.
this is super exciting for us to have like a new like little member of our family.
Yeah, because you have two right now, right?
We have two,
Yeah.
yes.
So you're getting a little puppy friend for the two. That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
How would you say like your relationship has evolved through like the Olympias and the Arnolds and like all of the ups and downs like with injuries, or has it been like the main just like steadfast thing that has kept it all going?
No, so with every marriage, right, you go through like those honeymoon phases. So like it's amazing right off the rip. And I think what really um solidifies like you and a partner is that if you can get through like the really shitty times,
Hmm.
right? So my husband and I have dealt with like a lot of grief, which is crazy in the last like couple of years.
Hmm.
With John passing and then my father-in-law passing, which was very tough on both of us. And then a couple months later, our dog had passed. So it was Matt's first dog. She
Mm,
was 15 years old.
wow.
He had her like as a puppy. So that was like really, really hard on him. Um, but I think if you can get through those like tough times with each other and not the cliche thing that like those tough times make you stronger, but it's like it literally, if you can work through it and if you can communicate and like let the other person know like how you're feeling or how you can, improve certain situations. I mean, shoot, that's like the best thing you can have in someone, right? If they're just, there for you in all aspects of your life.
Yeah, because it's easy to be there for someone when everything's great and when, you're both happy and the energy is high and everything, but when like things really test you as an individual, like yeah, you can probably take care of yourself, but like what's happening with the other person? Like
Right.
you're committed to that person. They're in your life no matter what. So you have to be able to like go through it with them, not just by yourself. And that's where like you can't be selfish like maybe you would if you were single or just not in like as meaningful of a relationship.
Right. One of our big tests was when I had my knee surgery,
Hmm.
because I was like bedridden for right after the surgery, like 3 weeks. Like I didn't move from that bed. He did
Yeah.
like literally everything for me, which was really hard for me because I'm super independent in the sense that, I have my routine. He has
You
his
don't want to
routine.
have to ask for help on stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was tough. And like, Yeah, so he was doing everything for me, and I'm sure it was like super stressful for him, you know. And then me being on like the painkillers, I was just like a zombie to the world. Um, it sucked. Like I totally feel for people who have like opiate addictions because man, that stuff is hard to kick. Like we had to have like a serious talk where he was like,
Mhm.
okay, scale from 1 to 10. Where are you in pain? Because you're like incompetent right now. Like you're like a zombie. And to wean me off the medication, he had to like set timers, like on my phone every 3 hours because the pain, Rachel, was so bad that like I couldn't even use like the oxys. I had to use the hydromorphone, like the fentanyl one,
Yeah.
because I was in so much pain.
Damn.
Um, but yeah, if I didn't have a supporting husband, who was genuinely cared for my well-being, like who knows, maybe I would still be on them. I don't know. I've
Yeah.
heard horror stories of,
I mean, that's how people get addicted is like they're not necessarily like an addict or someone who's searching for a drug addiction or searching for what drugs do for you, but they're like they have an injury, they have a surgery, and then they get addicted because like it just numbs that pain and then they just like keep convincing themselves that they need it. And that's
yes,
like a chemical convincing, it's a chemical addiction, right?
right.
And then like that's how people get on the streets is like one thing leads to another to another to another, and like
Yeah.
you see that in Seattle especially, like that's such a huge issue over there.
Mhm.
um is just like the drug addiction and stuff.
It's very bad. Yeah. I feel for them because yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. So how are you feeling differently, or how are you managing this year differently when it comes to getting ready to qualify for Figure Olympia, and like how is that different from entering past preps for you?
Yeah. So the one cool thing about this year is that I am enjoying training again.
Mhm.
I love going into the gym. I actually read I think your post yesterday where you said like the gym shouldn't be therapy. It
Yeah.
needs to be like you got to have a purpose.
Mhm.
You're going in there for a purpose, and that honestly, that's how I feel. Like it's like I go in with my briefcase. I walk in, it's my gym bag, and I'm here to fucking work. Like
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm not here to like woo whan, like put my head down and oh my god, I'm suffering. Like no, I have all this food in me. I have the goal to win a pro show this year, and like truly, I'm having fun now. Like I have no pressure. This is like a clean slate for me going into this new division.
Does it
I
almost feel like you're a beginner, or do you feel like you have a leg up just because of your history and experience?
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident in myself. I feel really good. Like um, I don't think that I'm not trying to like go in and be like, I'm Miss Fitness Olympia. I'm gonna like destroy everyone. It's totally not like that. I know I have to prove myself in the figure division. It's a way different look, which I'm stoked about because I had to pull back so much, like with my fitness, when I was training for fitness. Doing way more cardio. Training was a lot different. Food was a lot different too. I was really restricting because I couldn't get heavy in the off season.
Yeah.
So like right now, I feel really good. I'm like 150 pounds. And hopefully, I'll cut down to like 130 on stage,
Mhm.
135. Whereas like all of my figure or fitness Olympia titles, I was like 125, 120 sometimes on
Yeah.
stage. So big, big difference. But
Huge. Especially
yeah,
on like just a smaller frame too. Like that 10 pounds is a big difference. Even 5 pounds when you're really lean is a big difference.
yes.
So, and with fitness, do you mean like you couldn't get as big, not only because of like the cardio aspects and doing your skills, but like because of what they wanted from the physique round in fitness?
Yeah, because like the fitness girls in this era are like a lot shorter. Like I'm one of the taller ones. Well, I was one of the taller ones. I'm 5'4", which isn't even that big.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So they are very short. And a lot of them are, not that they don't take the fitness round or the physique round seriously, but I just truly love bodybuilding. So I would always I wanted to look like a figure girl.
Hmm.
I wanted to look like Nicole Wilkins on stage. I always loved her physique. And I think with the fitness round or the fitness division, we go out in our physique round first. And if you can make that impression, whew, wow,
Yeah. And you're
you
doing
got,
figure poses too. So like it makes sense that your physique is close to a figure competitor's physique.
yes, yeah. And I always knew, in my heart, once I was done with fitness, I would be moving on to figure. So it was like, why I need to put as much as I would in the physique round as I do in the fitness round. So they
Yeah.
both, to me, were equal. And that's why I always was like, man, they should do 50-50, physique 50-50, routine 50-50.
But 75
It's,
25, isn't it? Or
yes.
70
Uh,
30, something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1/3. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
1/3.
So now that you're out of fitness, what do you see happening with the fitness division? Because like the year that you injured yourself on stage, there was just like a big kind of, I don't know if upset is the word, but like it was who won that year? Was it
Oksana won.
Oksana won, but little T, I forget her actual first name.
Taylor.
She got second, right?
Yes.
And she has a very different physique than everyone else, right?
Yes.
How Tell me about like your thoughts with that and how that went and like where the division is going with like more people like her coming in who are just way more focused on the fitness round, like the routine round, and less so on like being like a figure competitor physique.
Yeah. Um, well, I think, Oksana, it's great that she was able to pull off that win in the routine round. Um, Physique wise, I don't even think she was in the first call out. Um, Taylor, her physique, she's brought up every year. So
Yeah.
she's doing what she can,
Yeah.
which I think is good. Um, her I understand why she stays as conditioned as she does, because she is a pretty big influencer on
Mm-hmm.
social media. So she has to look a certain part. So I'm sure she doesn't want to get super big in her off seasons.
Yeah.
Although I think it would behoove of her, because that's what she needs to
To put
stand
on
out.
the
Right?
size. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you know, you have to hold tissue to be able to put on that muscle. You can't just be always in a not in, it's in a maintenance calorie phase. You're
Yeah.
not gonna
You have to
accomplish.
progressively overload your diet, your training, everything
Right.
to gain that size for sure.
Right. I would love to see her do well, and I think this year she'll be able to win the Fitness Olympia, especially if she doesn't compete in any other shows. If she just does Olympia and just keeps progressing this off season,
Hmm.
um, in my opinion, she has to be a little bit harder and drier.
Yeah.
But now that, well, there's Jacqueline and Ariel who do bring really good physiques and are dry and hard. Now they don't have figure shape, they're not shapely and as muscular, but she's gonna have to stand next to them.
Yeah.
So I think with me being gone, she might compare better to those two now,
Yeah. It's just
because they
that's what judging is all about. It's that it's not what one person looks like compared to another show or another person at another show or the last year's Olympia. It's like it's how everyone looks on stage that day and how everyone's
right.
routines did that day. It's
Yes.
not so much about like trends or anything like that. It's like the Olympia is the be all end all of like what we want this physique to look like and perform like for fitness. And
Right.
just for any other division, just like how it looks next to everybody else. And if more people are on like that smaller side, then they're going to judge based on that versus like they're not going to judge based on you because you're gone. You're not there anymore.
Yes. Yeah. So hopefully, the standard in fitness is figure. So hopefully, those girls will start really, pushing the physique round, and we'll see though. Like I'm excited now that I'm out of fitness. I've been doing more like commentating type stuff and giving my opinion on it because I mean, why not?
You earned it.
It was
You got to that spot. You know it pretty well.
yeah.
What would you say is like the most important thing you've learned about yourself in your career as an athlete?
So I think the biggest thing I learned was like this last prep, and that although I had like a devastating injury, there was nothing anyone could do for me. Like it had to be all of myself. Like I couldn't, there was a lot of preps where I was like, oh, okay, like I'm going to do this for my husband. I want him to be proud of me, And of course, like this prep, I was doing for my family, but ultimately it was for me. Like I had to dig really, really fucking hard because that, I mean, I couldn't walk like without crutches for over 16 weeks. My leg literally was down to like a peg leg. I will post pictures at some point. I'm not there yet, but it was crazy how much my leg had atrophied. And I'm living it every day, seeing it, and just I was so like in my head about it. Um so I think that going through that really, really difficult time and coming out of it on top, like winning the Fitness Olympia, I proved to myself that like if I want to do something, I can do it. And I had this saying all last prep, like fight for your dreams. Like if there's something you want in life, you have to fight for it. You can't depend on anyone else. Like, of course, people are going to be there for you and supporting you, but they
Can't
can't.
expect that. And
Yeah.
can't expect how it's going to help you too. Like you can get all the support and love from your husband or a best friend or your coach even, but at the end of the day, like that doesn't pay the bills. That just is a bonus. And
Right.
you have to do the work, and that work has to be enough for you. You won't know if it's enough until you actually do it and see the result of it.
Right. Totally. Literally starting from like scratch, like
Yeah.
learning how to walk again, learning how to flex your quad, and actually like getting like the range of motion back. Like it's still not even like 100%. So it's just something now that,
It's a new challenge.
yeah, exactly. A new
Yeah.
challenge. Yeah.
Was there anyone like kind of through that time that you kind of like saw as someone that you looked up to in terms of like their strength or like a motivating factor that helps you push through, or was it really all just within?
So a lot of it was within,
Yeah.
but I had, there's a woman, Charlotte Flair. She's a WWE wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
and she actually had the same injury that I had
Okay.
in December. So mine was in November, hers was in December. So her and I are literally going through this like mental transformation, dealing with the surgery, not being able to walk. And we're like DMing each other back and forth. So I found like a lot of inspiration in her.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Just not feeling alone too, I bet.
Yeah. And like just knowing that like someone else has gone through a similar injury. Um, I started like researching, not in the moment, but like afterwards, just like people, bodybuilders who had like ACL injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Carlos Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
He had an ACL injury. And you can't even tell now. His legs are like his best attribute, and they're so symmetrical. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah. Just the possibilities of the human body are incredible.
Yeah.
It's wild. So I know we're running out of time, but last question, what would you say is like your best piece of advice for someone wanting to be an elite level athlete, like as close to your level as possible?
Yeah. So I think one of my biggest like mantras now after going through it is truly fight for your dreams. You know, if there's something you want, you have to go for it. You know, we only have one life, and I mean the time is now, right? Don't put it off. Just go for it. Make sure you're financially in a good position. Ask questions, talk to people about it. Maybe someone has gone through like a similar, journey. You can ask them about it. But yeah, I truly believe that if you believe in your heart you can do something, like you can do it. Like go for it.
Yeah, just got to fight for it. No one's going to fight
Mhm.
for you.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on. I know you're a busy woman and you have another podcast right after this, so go and take a break and get ready. But thank you so much. All of Missy's information, like how to reach her, how to follow her, reach out to her for coaching, whatever it is, will all be in the show notes down below. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank
Bye.
you.